So right now, if everyone can find themselves at their 50% of MAP, or about your 5 out of 10, and RPMs somewhere over 90, somewhere between 90 and 100 to 105. We have a quick warm-up today and a couple of longer sets that will move us through a range of RPMs from a rather crisp climbing cadence per se, around 80, right up to 110 plus plus. And we're going to be going through that twice. So we're practicing moving our legs at various speeds, coming back to the same wattage output. So it's a fun one, and the time will fly. So we have another minute and a half before we begin our first set. If you're comfortable at your 50% right now, let's move your dial up to, and your gearing, depending on your bike type, up to about your 6 out of 10, your 60%. We'll touch on this for a minute here. Finding 60%, steady state. Just feeling a little more pressure under your legs. I know it's a cold morning here in Vancouver and even in California, and especially in Winnipeg, where we've just had a report that it's minus 28. So we definitely want to be warm. So what we're going to do for these two sets, we're starting at our 60% at 80 RPM. We're going to hold that steady for 2 minutes. Then we're going to use RPM only, moving up to 90 RPM for a minute, not adjusting our gears. So your watts will go up. You may have to adjust those watts up a bit on certain smart trainers. And then we go back to 60%, but staying at that 90 RPM. And then we do it again, this time moving up to 100, not touching the gearing for a minute, and then backing the gear off to 60% for 2 more minutes. On up. We're going through that up to 110 plus RPM, a quick, easy in between, and we'll repeat that set, launching from 70%. So right now, you're at 60%. Let's drop your cadence down to 80. Bringing that gear back up to 60%. You're at 80 RPM, 60%. We are on this first 2 minutes. It's a fast warm-up today. So this should feel relatively kind to your legs. 6 out of 10 approximates your all-day riding pace. You can talk. At 80 RPM, you might be climbing a low-grade hill, almost an inclining false flat. So just settle in here. We have just under a minute before we do our first lift up to 90 RPM. I know we jumped into this quickly, but we have a lot to accomplish this 30 minutes. So remember, when we're moving up to 90 RPM, we're not touching our gearing. The gearing is going to go up. It's going to be harder watts for you, just for a minute. And then we get to bring that back to 60%. So we have 10 seconds until this first lift. In 3, 2, 1. Bring your cadence up to 90. Don't touch your gearing. You should be over your 60% now. We're just here for a minute. A little more pressure on your legs, but still pretty manageable here. This is our efficient cadence output as we've gone over the last few Mondays of skills days. Over halfway through this minute. And then all we're gonna do is stay at this cadence and bring our gear back to 60%. Just over 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Back the gear to 60%. You're still at 90 RPM. Even if the higher gearing you were at felt good, still bring that gear back to 60. We have lots of work ahead of us. So now we're here for just under 2 minutes. 90 RPM, 60%. Settle in. Feeling just a little crisper than that 80. More of your ideal long ride cadence. Time to breathe. Time to do a quick body scan before we start moving up to the 100 plus RPM range, where we begin to overreach a bit. 1 more minute here. Check in with your feet. What are they doing? Are they doing a complete circle? Coming up over the top, right through the bottom, scraping something off the bottom of your shoe, pulling right up back through the circle. Visualize your hamstring and your hip flexors on that pull up at the back. And then up and over the top with those strong quads. In 15 seconds, we're going up to 100 RPM, just with cadence, not touching the gear. And we're gonna be there for a minute. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Up, up. Let's find that 100 RPM. A little extra pressure on the pedals now. The difference between 90 to 100 can easily be 20 to 40 watts probably, depending on the size of rider you are and where your 60% is at. So now we're feeling this a little bit more, but we're only here for another 25 seconds. Then we're gonna stay at 100, but bring our watts back to 60%, 6 out of 10 feeling. It's a nice place to come back to. In 3, 2, 1. Back your gear off to 60%. You're still at 100 RPM. To get the best out of this, you want to find that 60% as fast as you can. If you've dropped a little below it, bring it back up. We want to hold both these numbers, the 100 RPM and the 60%. Your heart rate's elevating now. Your body is definitely warm. Just make sure it's staying relaxed. Nice and steady with your upper body. One more minute here, and then we start entering our overreaching zone. Moving up into the 110 RPM range. Something that is very good for managing short efforts when you just have to catch up quickly, or you're punching it up a hill on a gravel bike or a mountain bike. These cadence efforts are super important to be a very consistent, balanced rider. We have 20 more seconds here. Then we're gonna move up to 110 RPM. We're not overshooting 110 yet, that's next. Again, not touching the gear. In 3, 2, 1. Up, up. Let's move those legs. Fastest circles of the day so far. Find that 110. Your gear output has moved up quite a bit again. Probably in that 20 to 40 watt range. Hang on there. More seconds, then we're staying at 110 and bringing back our watts to 60%. Get comfortable with this cadence. It will help you, if only to make your 100 RPMs seem that much more doable. Three, 2, 1. Gear back to 60%. RPMs are still 110. This should feel significantly crisper. Nice, fast leg turnover. A much easier gear. You would have gone down from anywhere from 80, 75, 70%. Down to 60. Time to catch your breath. We have just over a minute and a half more before we reach even higher. Now, when you're going up to these really high RPMs, especially when we're not adjusting our gear back, you can play around with your hand position. You might find you want to be in the drops or a little lower on your hoods. You're most likely not up in your cadence climbing position. 45 seconds more. Let's keep those legs moving. 110, 60%. Feeling very efficient here. All right, nice work. In 15 seconds, we're giving her up to as high an RPM as you can hold, not only for this minute at the higher gear, but for the following minute at 60%. So probably up to 115, 120. We are on now. Up, up. 1 minute. 110 plus plus. Don't touch that gear. See how fast you can move those legs. Nice and smooth. This shouldn't be a really killer power effort. Watts are still below your 85. More seconds. Then we're going to stay with this crisp cadence and find your 60% for the last minute. That's it. Keep them moving. In 3, 2, 1. Gear back to 60%. RPMs 110 plus plus. You got this. Just keep moving those legs. This time it's only a minute. Then we'll take a really short break and begin The next set, starting at 70%. Keep going. Come on. Let's not see 110. Not until we're coming back down. Even if you're only at 111, keep it going. You got this. 20 seconds to go. Move, 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 move. You've almost caught. 10 more seconds. Do not slow down. 3, 2, 1. You can back it off to your 3 to 5 out of 10. We've only got 1 minute here. Grab a breath, grab some water or some hydration. We're going to repeat that set exactly the same way, but our number is 70%, 7 out of 10, close to your functional threshold pace or your hour power, maybe a little under that. That's going to be our home base for the next set. If you've dropped below 50%, bring it back to 50 right now. We're back on in 15 seconds. We're starting at 80 RPM at 70%. Let's slow those legs down to 80 right now. Bringing in some gear to find the 70. We're on in 2, 1. 2 minutes, 80 RPM, 70%. Let's find that gear as fast as you can. And we'll hang in here for just under 2 more minutes. Find that gear. Then settle in. So just a little bit more pressure under your legs. This, again, at this 80 RPM, great opportunity to check your body again. You might have got really down into it when we got up to those higher RPMs in the first set. So let's just settle back in on our saddles, see what our core is doing, check in with our feet. We have 1 more minute here. And remember to breathe, of course. Nice and easy. This is where we can settle our heart rate a little bit. It will accelerate over our accelerations. Our first lift is going to be to 90. You'll notice quite a bit more pressure under your legs for the first minute, coming from 70, and then we'll back it down to 70 again. 20 more seconds, nice and smooth. Make sure you're at 70, not higher. 7 out of 10 effort. In 5 seconds, we're moving up to 90 RPM without touching the gear. 3, 2, 1. Up, up. 90 RPM. Just find that cadence and ignore what the watts are doing. Your legs can tell you that. If you've overshot 90, bring it back. I overshot a little bit myself here. If you're counting my pedal strokes, now I'm back just over 90. In 20 seconds, we're staying at 90, but we're bringing that gear back to our 70%. Five more seconds. 3, 2, 1. 70%, 90 RPM. A little reprieve. Keep those legs at 90. We've got just under 2 minutes here to slow our breathing a bit, catch our breath, get a little recovery in before we have that next opportunity to get up that steep little pitch or catch the back of our group. Nice work. 2 minutes should seem pretty plush right now, so enjoy. Here in Vancouver, I'd like to say the sun is rising, but the clouds are rising. It is getting brighter. I don't see our yellow ball of fire yet, but that's okay. We're here right now. The next 9 minutes is all that matters. 30 seconds more. We're lifting our cadence to 100, not touching our gear. Gonna start to feel this, but hang on for that minute, and then you get the 2 minutes to settle back. 15 more seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Up, up. 100 RPM. Don't touch that gear. You might be getting up close to your 85 now. Some of you might overreach that. Some of you a bit under. Just hang in there. Just over 30 seconds more. And then we're going to stay here, but bring our gear back to 70%. 70 watts would be nice probably, but it's going to be 70%. Keep going. You got this. Just 20 seconds to go. Then we get our 2 minute little recovery, active recovery. Catch our breath. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to 70%, still at 100 RPM. Don't let that gear fall off too much. We're training our system, our legs, our neuromuscular development will respond down the road when we encounter this again. It's not like a warm-up cadence ramp where we start easy, easy. We're starting at a pace that we may already be only able to keep up for an hour. Good work, everyone. Still have a minute 15. Settle down. I'm gonna take you right to the wire for this 30-minute effort. For those following sequentially, we are in our last 7 days. Everyone has already completed 3/4 of the month of January. Amazing. And today's prize, while I have your attention and I can still speak, are the men's and women's 120% chamois cream, which was developed by mountain biker, road riders, triathletes, hypoallergenic. So the winner will get the anatomically correct version. 15 more seconds, then we're going up to 110. All right, 3, 2, 1, up you go. 1 minute, 110 RPM. Don't touch your gear. We're pushing hard gear fast. You're probably moving at a very high kilometers per hour right now, if you're able to monitor that. My Garmin says we're in and around 47 kilometers an hour. Everyone's will be different. It's definitely overreaching your typical for most. 15 seconds, then we're gonna lower our gear back to 7 out of 10, but we're staying at 110 RPM. We're breathing hard now. 3, 2, 1. 70%, 110 RPM. Hang on. 2 minutes here. You can recover here. This should feel lighter on your legs than 70% at 80 RPM. Note that difference. Your gear is lower, your leg speed higher for that same wattage output. That is the beauty of cadence. We can find our sweet spots, we can use it to our advantage. Keep going. I'm hanging out with my drops right now. I quite like that when I'm going fast. Play around with your arm position if you've got the option. Just under a minute more here. One more rise. And then one more drop back. And you've done it. Nice work. 30 more seconds. Stay on it. My legs are at just over 110 right now. If you're following my legs. We've got 15 more seconds, and we are increasing to your maximum RPMs that you can hold for the next minute at the elevated watts, and then another minute at your 70. In 3, 2, 1. Up, up. 110 plus, plus, plus. Can you find 115? How about 120? And once you found it, can you hang in there? Move those legs. Wake them up. We don't use them, they'll leave us. We don't want that. Come on. Fast, fast. Fast feet. Fast circles. Keep going. 15 more seconds. Then we're staying up here, but you get to reduce your watts by down to your 70%. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 70%, 110 plus plus, just a minute here. And that's all we have left on the clock. So I'm gonna ask you to stay on longer and do some active cool down. Come on. 111, 112, 113, 120. You got this. We have 30 seconds to 8:35 on the nose. Way to go, everyone. Keep going. Keep those RPMs up. 10 more seconds. Right through the finish. Up, up. In 3, 2, 1. And that's a wrap.